I am Mary from Mary's Heirloom Seeds, and welcome to another exciting video. Seeds, and I try to go live here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time. So for those of you just joining me, welcome. And for those of you that join me regularly, welcome back. So I have a couple of fun things to share with you today. I wanted to go live in the garden and share with you some of my tips for companion planting and container gardening together, but we were supposed to have this big storm. Hey, who's there? Thanks for joining me. So I've been checking the weather this whole week. Hey, Tom, thanks for joining me. And all week it said we were gonna have a bunch of rain. First it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then it was Thursday, Friday. And then Thursday was gonna be the bulk of our rain. They said 1.8 inches at one point. I'm looking outside and we haven't had any rain yet. Hey, Christine. So I'm indoors today in the kitchen, even though I could have gone live, but I still wanted to share with you some of my kitchen tips and just things that we're doing in the garden. So some of what I'm going to discuss today is just going to be stuff that I'm doing, and then we'll talk about some gardening stuff as well. If you have any questions, as always, please ask. I'm always happy to help. Who's there says just bought some flowers from you yesterday. Awesome. We are currently shipping out seed orders very, very fast. Hey, Katie. Hey, D Little 2. Hey, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining me. So if you haven't already, please hit this thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'm really excited to be growing here. So what am I doing tonight? I've got so much stuff on my counter that I'm working on. I figured I'd do a little kitchen preserving while we chat about the garden. By the way, how is your garden growing right now? Mine is thriving right now. I'm excited that we are beyond our frost dates. Hey, Deborah, thanks for joining me. We're past our frost dates. We're warming up. It's in the 80s today. I went live on Sunday out in the garden with Garden State Gardener. If you missed that interview, please go check it out. Give him a thumbs up. Tell him Mary sent you. I'll share the link in the comment section as soon as I'm done with my live chat. Or if you're on my Facebook page, I posted it there as well. So I talked about lemon balm last time. D Little 2 says just planted a bunch of veggies and herbs and flowers under grow lights. Awesome. So last week was lemon balm. I discussed so many ways of preserving or growing lemon balm and how you can harvest it. I literally just pinched it off with my fingernails and it was really easy. But I've been harvesting lemon balm like crazy. So before I get to what's going on back there, hey Sharon, hey Linda, thank you for joining me. I'm gonna experiment. I'm gonna use my calendula infused oil recipe and I'm gonna add lemon balm to it. Lemon balm has some amazing health benefits when you use it topically. It is also great for bug bites, and it's also great to deter bugs from you. So you can make a bug spray, you can make a bug salve. So that's what I'm going to do first before I get to all the other craziness that's going on behind me. So in my video about making your own calendula infused oil, I used a couple different types of oil and I used calendula as my base. But today I'm going to do a little bit of a tweak on that. So by the way, if you're just joining me, if you have questions, just holler at me and I'll share. I made a video yesterday and posted your website link on my video on Rumble. Awesome. Thank you very much. So lemon balm is prolific in my garden right now. So I'm figuring out ways that I can preserve that harvest throughout the year. I really want to get the most bang for my buck when it comes to my garden, especially as far as preserving my garden. So lemon balm, I have a couple of these containers that I have dried in my dehydrator. So that's what I'm going to use right now. So in my calendula infused oil recipe, I have 1 1/3, I think, to 2 cups of oil. Instead of doing a mixture of coconut oil and olive oil, I'm just going to do straight coconut oil because I want a firmer texture. This is a base. Keep in mind, this is just a base. I'm going to make a large batch and then I'm going to section it out and I'm going to use it for different recipes. I'm going to be tweaking those recipes to see what works for me. Sharon says, must it be dried? Now that's a good question. It doesn't have to be dried, but the more water content in your herbs, the higher the chance of it going rancid. And I want this to last as long as possible, mostly because I'm going to be trying these out. I'm going to experimenting with different recipes. So if I was going to use this right now and long term, I use my calendula infused oil almost daily. So I use a lot of it and I use it fairly quickly. I don't have to worry about it going bad. But for this recipe in particular, I want it to last long enough so that I can test out different recipes and see what works best for me. So I do have a couple things. I've got dried calendula. See, there's no fancy labels for me. I've got calendula here that's dried, and then I've got my lemon balm here that's dried as well. So I'm gonna do that. I also already measured out 2 cups of my coconut oil. I'm gonna get this baby turned on. I generally do the coconut oil first, and then I'll add the extras a little later on, just so it gets a chance to warm up and kind of smooth out, so it's not as lumpy and hard yet, and that way it's a nice more of a liquid. So if you don't know, coconut oil is more of a solid at room temperature, and then it gets softer as it heats up. So that's another reason I want to let you know that I'm tweaking it, because I want a harder consistency. I want to I don't want it, I want it smooth, but I don't want it to be a liquid. Like if I wanted to use it as an oil for my skin, I would want to use something like avocado oil or olive oil. What else am I doing today? We've got so much going on in the garden. I've been dehydrating a bunch of stuff as well. So Christian says, hey, hello, and happy Thursday. Thank you so much for joining me for my video. So I also have my dehydrator going. If you watched my video on preserving garlic, that was when I shared with you all of the different ways to preserve garlic. So I guess you could say tonight's video is a little bit about how to preserve your lemon balm, but we're going to talk about a couple other things as well. If you didn't already sign up, definitely sign up for my email list. In the description section of this video, you will find a link to my email sign up list. I just sent out a seed sale yesterday. Today, as Christian mentioned, today is April 20th, and this seed sale will go through the end of the month. So if you're watching the replay and it's after the end of April 2023, I'm sorry you missed it, but there will always be more in the future. So there's a lot of different things that you can use from your garden and preserve for future use. So garlic was one that I mentioned and did a video on a couple months ago. I made let's see, do you have more stock of seeds on your site now? Of course I do. We currently have over 850 varieties of heirloom seeds in stock at Mary's Heirloom Seeds, so definitely go check it out. Let's see, I let my dandelions dry naturally on my counter. That was what I was gonna get to next. So there's a couple herbs that you can dry naturally and have no issues with. Garlic is one. As you mentioned just a second ago, you got dandelions. There's a couple things that I have done, like calendula, and another one, perfect segue into this, is rosemary. Rosemary is fantastic. You can use it dry, you can use it raw and fresh off the plant, and it dries really easily with no extra effort. Lemon balm, on the other hand, has a higher water content. I have tried drying it out and it didn't do very well. A lot of times you can take herbs and stick it in a glass, add a little bit of water, and it'll stay fresh for longer. Lemon balm, it just completely wilted. So that's why I'm sticking with dehydrating specifically for lemon balm. You don't have to dehydrate anything. You can actually put it on a counter with a screen, and that works just fine. When I lived in a drier climate in Southern California, I could do a lot more herbs on a tray, and I didn't have any trouble. I didn't have to use a dehydrator. But when you live in a more humid climate, sometimes you've got to do a little bit of extra to make it dry a little easier. Who's there says, I clean my dandelions in baking soda water first, clean with clean water, and dry on paper towels. That works out really well. Like I said, some herbs have a higher water content, and really a dehydrator is a little easier to use than, say, putting it on your counter. And again, it depends on how much moisture is in your air. So something to think about. What else am I doing in the garden today? Oh, vinegars. I posted on my Facebook page the other day about making purple basil vinegar. It is one of the easiest kitchen recipes you can use, and you can use that vinegar in a lot of other recipes. So you can make your own vinaigrette from a homegrown, homemade vinegar. So that's another thing I'm gonna do. You ready for the recipe? Super easy. So I've got a jar of lemon balm, glass jar, make sure it's clean. It's pretty much all you have to worry about. And you're gonna fill your jar half full with herbs. It doesn't have to be lemon balm. It can be basil. It can be rosemary, like I just mentioned. It can be basil, like I mentioned earlier. It can be tarragon. It can be lemon if you really want to. But I like the idea of lemon balm because, one, I can grow up my garden, and I have so much of it, it's crazy. So you take a jar, any jar. It doesn't have to be a small jar, but I don't use a lot of flavored vinegars. So, or at least I want to have a lot of different varieties of vinegar. So the next one I'm going to make is going to be rosemary. Lots of different options. So you want to make sure that your herbs are clean. You want to make sure that your jar is clean, and you want to warm up your vinegar first. So I have this giant, not bucket, but a giant jug of vinegar. I put it on the stove and I put it on warm. I try to remember not to put plastic on the stove. Going live, I'm a little all over the place today. So I've got my jar, I've got my herbs, and now I have my warmed up vinegar. I don't bring the vinegar to a boil. I just put it on medium heat until it's warm enough, and then I'm gonna go ahead and pour it. Now I do have this strainer, or a funnel. I've got a metal one as well, but it's a lot bigger for a bigger jar, so I'm using my small one here. And you're literally just gonna pour this. Now, I would usually do this over the stove, I would usually do this over the sink. But since you're live with me here, I'm gonna make a total mess on the stove, and I'll just clean it up when I'm done. So I will try not to make a mess. And you just pour it over. Look at that. I didn't even make a mess. So now you've got a clean jar of herb vinegar. Like I said, you can use tarragon, rosemary, basil. Kind of the sky's the limit on what you want and what your taste and flavor is. This would be really good if you added tarragon to it. So with this, I'm going to take the lid and I'm going to cover it, and I'm just going to stick it in the kitchen cabinet for 2 to 3 weeks. Now, because I've done it this way, I don't have to put it in the refrigerator. You can put it in the refrigerator, but you don't have to. I will put this in the refrigerator as soon as it cools. And then from here, it's 2 to 3 weeks. I strain out those herbs, and I'm ready to have an herb-infused vinegar. Any of you guys made an herb-infused vinegar? It's literally that simple. Well, I take it back. I did have to grow the herbs before I could make that herb-infused vinegar, so it did take me a little while to get it done. Christine says, Kate is admiring your dehydrator. This was a birthday gift from Doc last year, so I'm really excited to have a nice fresh start on a dehydrator. It was on my wish list for a little while, so it's easy to use. And a friend of mine said, hey, I've got this big giant dehydrator if you want to use it, because I've got a lot of herbs. The problem is there's not a lot of coverage on my countertops here. If I had a space that had a taller area for it, I would definitely do it. Anyway, so D-Light says not yet. I'm assuming you're talking about herb vinegars. Did you see how easy that was? I kind of tend to be on the low maintenance side of cooking and baking and do it yourself. So I like to share easy stuff. Now in the video last week, I went live discussing lemon balm, and I mentioned how I use a dehydrator. Now this dehydrator, you don't have to use it, but it's helpful for me because I'm going through a lot of it and I don't have a lot of extra space. Why don't I have a lot of extra space? Mary's Heirloom Seeds, we've got a farm, right? Well, indoors we have what I used to call tiny kittens. They're not tiny anymore, but they are curious. They like to get into everything. So I did have to do some research on whether the cats could eat lemon balm. Did you know that you can actually give in very small doses lemon balm to your cats. I had to learn that because I had a cat that was trying to eat it, and then all of a sudden I was searching like, oh my gosh, is this going to make my cat sick? So Kate, if you want some information on what I have, I'll share with you. I do have some recommendations on a bigger one if you have more space. So I did look that up. Lemon balm tea, herb tea. You can pretty much make a tea out of most of the herbs that you're growing in your garden. Some taste a little better than others. Now, rosemary, I've made a rosemary tincture before. It did not taste like rosemary. It was not very pleasant. So I'm definitely not going to make tea out of rosemary, but I will make tea out of lemon balm. I will make tea out of chamomile. What do I have over here? I think I've got chamomile and lavender. You can actually make tea out of lavender. So lavender is one that I will be making another concoction with. I like to use lavender for an oil. It's just an infused oil. It's so easy. Olive oil or almond oil and lavender. Super simple. You can either fill the jar with oil and your herb, or you can set it on a sunny windowsill, or again, you can put it in the slow cooker and you're good to go. So I do need to take a second and, hey Kim, thanks for joining me. I do need to take a second and add my herbs to my mixture here. If you're just joining me, I am making a couple things while we're chatting live. I did want to go, oh awesome, thank you. I did want to go live outside tonight and talk about companion planting and container gardening together, since we are in the growing season, but it was supposed to storm. Now usually I'm okay with not having storms, but I was hoping for the rain to nourish my garden. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get some rain tonight. So in my oil mixture here, I've got 2 containers here of lemon balm. These were pre-dried. You don't have to use pre-dried, but I like to use pre-dried because there's a lot less moisture content in there, which means it will hopefully last longer. And we're just gonna let those sit in there. And then the other thing that's gonna go in my mixture, I'm gonna put calendula in it. So it's super simple. It's the recipe for my calendula infused oil, which you can find in my comprehensive planting guide as well, just as part of the recipes. So that's just kind of what I'm doing today. I figured I'd share with you a little bit of my do-it-yourself in the kitchen stuff. Somebody asked me that they said they were more interested in homesteading. And a big part of homesteading is working on things that you can make for yourself instead of buying from the store. And some of the easiest things are from our garden. So I thought I would kind of give you a couple of things that I'm doing in my garden and then carrying that on into my kitchen so that you can kind of see what we're doing. Just a couple, this is just one of several things that we do here from the garden into the kitchen that are very simple ways that you can make baby steps into homesteading, becoming more self-sufficient, and really removing some of the chemicals and the store-bought junk that might be, maybe it's harming you. I don't know. It just depends on what your lifestyle is and what you're choosing. So again, I know that this lemon balm is probably more expensive than buying dried lemon balm from the store, because I had to grow the plant, I had to take care of the plant, and then I've got to harvest it, rinse it off, bring it in, and dry it. And this is at, I think the degree is 103 for 4 hours if it's still wet, or if it's completely dried off after I rinse it, it's just 3.5 hours. I've played with it a little bit because at 4 hours, it made the leaves too crispy. But at 3.5, if it was already dry, it was perfect. Just that was the leaves that I put in there. So some of these things are just easy ways. Sorry, I'm trying to see you guys here. They're just easy ways that you can make some small changes to be able to do it yourself and have something on hand. And growing food isn't necessarily cheaper than buying from the store. Making your own isn't necessarily cheaper than buying it from the store. But I know exactly what I'm getting. Hey, 2%, thanks for joining me. I know exactly how my lemon balm was grown. I know exactly how my vinegar was prepared. Christine says beets beats not knowing what your herbs were grown in and treated with. Exactly. It's refreshing to me to know exactly what's going in my food. It gives me peace of mind that I can grow this and make this, and then I have that experience. So I can say, hey, I grew my own lemon balm. Hey, I dehydrated my own food. Next on the list is going to be the herb greens that I've got, not the herb greens, the onion greens. Added those to my salad last night, and it was so delicious. So that's definitely something that I am planning for the future. Kim says, I have lemon balm coming up all over my yard. Never know what to do with it. Well, you are in luck because this video was all about what you can do with it. And if you missed my live chat last Thursday, I discussed even more information about lemon balm. It is a perennial, which means it can continue to produce year after year. It means you don't have to plant seeds every year. It means you don't have to buy seeds every year as long as you take care of it. And you don't want to harvest more than 3/4 of the plant at a time. So super important tip there. You don't want to have a major harvest. 3/4 of the plant is good, and then that way it will continue to thrive. So we're dehydrating this to use for tea for a later time. I have frozen some to use at a later time. If you haven't already, after this video, watch my preserving garlic video. There are so many ways that you can preserve garlic. That's a great one. I've got a salve recipe that I'm making as well, and we also have a herb vinegar that you can use with it. All of these are things that you can make yourself so easy. All right, if you have any questions, you can send me an email to mary@marysheirloomseeds.com. If I missed any of your questions, I will go back and watch. Sometimes I miss it. Sometimes I got my back turned because I'm doing my recipes over here. So if I missed you, I'm sorry. I apologize. It was nothing personal. I just maybe didn't see it. You can always send me an email to mary@marysheirloomseeds.com and I will answer. Don't forget to sign up for my email because if you get my emails, you will see we've got a seed sale going on right now until the end of the month. And we've got a giveaway just in time for Earth Day, which is today. Happy Earth Day, everybody. We've got a seeds giveaway as well. And yes, we are preparing for the storm. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I'm Mary at Mary's Heirloom Seeds, signing off, and happy planting.